There's this motto that the best camera is the one you have with you, and it's a motto that I have often been like, yeah, but let's put that to the test while I'm actually going out to take some photos, and as you will see, it will be both surprising and not super surprising at all. I'm here in Stockholm in Sweden just to photograph the beautiful town, and we have the most amazing cold weather. As you can see on my beard here, it's like minus 10 degrees. My fingertips are freezing cold, but I'll see if I can take a few photos that are of interest. I know I can't because I already have. And this video is also going to be all over the place because I'm both recording on my phone and taking photos with the phone. Right now I'm down here by the harbor and I just fell over the scene over here. It looks really cool. So something like this here, this beautiful old ship. Then we have the reflection from the sun right there. That's really nice. I like that. In this beautiful, very, very cold winter atmosphere. Trying to just like balance the photo, so I have the old ship here a little bit on the right and then I have the building here a little bit on the left. So even though I'm doing some calm photography with my phone right here, I'm still running around. Look at this ship out here, that's beautiful. Well, I guess that boat alone takes up 50% of the carbon footprint of the entire Swedish amount of industry. A beautiful little scene. I really enjoy, like you can see here, it's just so cold that we even have like winter fog there on this fjord here in Stockholm. Very beautiful. Oh my, I had the fingers exposed there for like no time at all and they're just freezing so much. So I'm right now in front of the royal castle. So this is basically where the king works. It's not where he lives, but he works here. It looks like a big giant fortress. I've actually been in there in the old library. That looks really, really cool, but right now we have these tourist buses in front. I don't really fancy that as a particularly beautiful photo, but I will head further in town and see if I can find some compositions. I will basically only take a photo if I stumble upon something, because I need to keep going. It is so cold. The lions are taking care of us so we don't get any terrorist attacks. I like this one very much. So one thing I've noticed so far just walking around here with my camera, which is a Sony Xperia 5 II, is that even though I have 3 lenses on the camera, a 16mm equivalent, a 24mm equivalent, which is the standard lens, and a 70mm equivalent, I really struggle so much. I definitely need to find some patience to find some good compositions, because I've kind of trained my eye to see with the long lens when I'm in nature, but in here, being limited to 70mm, obviously I can zoom in, but it is cutting quite a lot of megapixels away. I don't have a lot to work with a phone camera. So even though I see a lot of like 200mm photos all the way around here that looks beautiful and minimal, right now it's a little bit harder when I'm limited to 70mm down to 16mm, especially in a city environment as Stockholm here is. So I'll just have to look and keep looking around. So a good example of that is the church I have over here. I'll just put in some B-roll, and I can zoom extra in on my 70mm camera, but the problem is when I take the photo, it actually ends up being really lousy quality. So I'm not really sure it's worth it when I'm limited to 70mm to try and zoom in. So I have to work for it here this afternoon. Now luckily I do benefit quite a lot from the fog, as you can see here. So here's an obvious bridge photo But it is getting darker, so I start seeing the lights here in the background. I also have some cranes up here that I don't like, but at least I have the fog, so it makes sure that the background doesn't take up as much attention as it could have done. Now, no matter what camera you're using, as you can see, what really matters is the main idea and the composition. So if you want to learn how I think composition when I'm on the go, no matter if I'm photographing with my phone or a more professional camera, be sure to check out my ebook on landscape photography composition. It is super easy to read with minimal text and plenty of examples all throughout the book. In the last chapter, I summarize everything that we have learned in the ebook. And if you enjoyed the first one, you can always go ahead and get the second one too. There are links to both of them down in the description of this video. Let's continue through Stockholm. So there is a reason why Stockholm is also known as Venice of the North. It's just because there's so many fjords and bridges and also small alleys in the part of town that is called Gamla Stan, the old town. But just look at this one right here behind me. That looks so atmospheric with this hoarfrost fog right here. So let's just turn this one around and maybe I can get a shot with that lady or another person walking right there. That's kind of cool. Would have preferred a little bit more fog to make that background completely invisible. Beautiful area. So the fog looks really nice here with this other bridge. There's just a man walking here with a blue jacket, and then a train came by, or the metro came by, which is also blue. And then I have this part of Gamla Stan here in the background that also looks super atmospheric. I think that was a nice shot. I like that. I like that very much. So it is very simple. I just use the basic camera. I'm photographing in JPEG. I just basically just put the screen and focus wherever I want to focus. And then I get the shot. There's really not a whole lot of thought behind this. I'm only thinking about composition and the subject in the photos. I'm not thinking about settings whatsoever. Even in street photography or cityscape photography, you really need to work fast. So I just had this tourist guy standing out there. That looked really nice. And I had some stuff going on over here, and I just photographed this boat coming in also. And here we have the Stadthaus, I think it's called. It's the Capitol building. Very Italian design. It's a bit funny with the Swedish architecture, because when I compare to what I see in Copenhagen, these Swedish buildings in here, they're just much more clean in their expression. Like you can see, there's of course the windows, and then there's the facade. And it's just much more clean. There's much fewer details than what you would see in Copenhagen, where you see many more bricks and many more details. Like I like both the Copenhagen architecture and the Swedish, but this is just so distinctively Swedish. And they also have more colors, like these pastel colors, like yellow here. This one here, probably white. And then we have the pinky stuff over here. You wouldn't really see that in Denmark. So I think that you need to separate the regular snapshot from the professional photo when it comes to this motto. Obviously, I can always get a better phone with a better camera, but it's kind of beyond the point. You do need somewhat of a good camera with an acceptable image quality to create professional work. I would be very hesitant to use these photos in a professional setting. Let's just dive into them and actually see them in detail when we zoom in. So we can see with the first one here, when I start zooming in, it becomes very like smudgy. But you also need to take into consideration that I am actually zoomed into 200%. And this here is the telephoto lens or the long lens in the camera. This one here, also the long lens, gets a little bit smudgy too, but I have zoomed in quite substantially in this one here. For this one here, I've even cropped the image even further, and you can see it gets very, very bad image quality very fast. Now this one here, you can see down here in the foreground, these plants, not really super great image quality, and this is taken with a wide angle lens, but I would say it's actually not too bad for these lampposts here and here. So you can definitely get a smaller print out of this one here. This one is the regular camera lens, and you can see I actually find that this is the best image quality from the phone, and when I just zoom into the details, they're actually not that bad at all. For this photo here, when I zoom in, again, it's taken with the regular camera 5.1mm here. It's actually not too bad at all. Now, one thing that did surprise me was how much I could actually edit the specific photos, even though they were just JPEG. No, I wouldn't go in and make like crazy luminosity masks and layers and Photoshop and all that stuff with these, but like just basic editing, like adding highlights, decreasing highlights, increasing shadows, adding or decreasing contrast or exposure was actually fairly doable, even on a JPEG photo. And that actually did surprise me, considering it's just a JPEG phone photo. So if you struggle with your photo editing and want to make somewhat more complex photos than the ones I've made in this video, be sure to enroll in my big Photoshop for landscape photographers post-processing course. It is here where I share all my photography editing techniques for all the different kinds of landscape photos that you can imagine wanting to do. The point is, I give you the techniques and then you can apply them in a way that you find beneficial for your style. There's a link with a coupon code to save a little bit of money down in the description of this video. So a few years back on the channel Digital Rap TV, they had this professional photographer that they challenged with a really, really bad camera. We are talking like a Lego camera and a Barbie camera, and it was actually quite funny. But what you can also conclude, even though that these photographers are great photographers, that they know what they're doing compositionally and storytelling wise, you would not want to use those photos in a professional setting unless it maybe was to show the camera features of the Barbie doll or the Lego camera, but even then I'm not sure people would buy it because of that. So to conclude, I personally think that there is a lower threshold to what the best camera is that you want to bring with you out into the field, and definitely take the goal into consideration. If you do celebrate it, I of course want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching along this year.